coalition of Medians, Babylonians, and Scythians sacked and destroyed the mythical ancient city of Nineveh. Its destruction marked the end of the mighty Assyrian Empire, which had dominated the lands from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean since the middle of the 8th century. The victors partitioned the empire. King Cyrus of Medes controlled the north and Nabopolassar of Babylon the south. Throughout the decades, the Median Empire extended its borders to the west to Asia Minor and to the east towards current-day Afghanistan. In 585 BC, after a 5-year-long war against the Kingdom of Lydia, its rulers decided the river Halys marked the border between the kingdoms. The peace was sealed by Cyaxares' son, Astyages, marrying the Lydian king's daughter. But Cyaxares could not enjoy the newfound peace for long. He passed away shortly after. His son succeeded him. Surviving sources reveal that Astyages was a tyrant, alienating many members of the aristocracy. He relied on religious advisors to shape his policy and imposed heavy burdens on his subordinates. But for now, the Median Empire and the Kingdom of Lydia were bound by blood. 5 years after ascending to the throne, Astyages' daughter Mandane had a son with the king of Anshan, Cambyses I. His father held the Anshan kingdom as a fief from Medes. Astyages dreamed his grandson would seize his empire. He ordered the infant's murder. Likely allegorical, the infant was rescued in a similar fashion to Moses. This boy, Cyrus, was not initially poised for greatness, but the world would come to know his name as ruler of one of the mightiest empires the world had ever seen. Lords and ladies stood at the forefront of history written. These titles certainly speak to the imagination. Historically, they were reserved for nobility. Well, what if I told you that you could become a lord or lady? Established Titles is a company which allows you to buy at least 1 square foot of dedicated land in Eddleston, Scotland. With a unique plot number, you can see the exact location of your land. Based on a historic Scottish custom, landowners are referred to as lairds, lords and ladies in English. Besides the certificate, once you own a plot of land, you can even change your official documents to include your title. Gifting someone or yourself a title is an incredibly fun and ideal last-minute present. It is unique, unexpected, and it lasts a lifetime. Perhaps more importantly, Established Titles has a formal pledge to protect the area's biodiversity. As partners with One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future, they support global reforestation efforts. They commit to planting 1 tree for every title pack sold. They told me that the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot within a few minutes of walking. Depending on how many of you want to become a lord or lady, we can build our little House of History kingdom. Support my channel, visit the link in the description and use the unique code for an additional 10% off. Cyrus grew up in Persis near the Persian Gulf coast. Herodotus reveals how the commander of the Median army approached Cyrus when he came of age, goading him to rise up against his grandfather and promising the support of the Median army. In 553 BC, he did so, unleashing a rebellion. The subsequent civil war lasted for several years. Again, sources are a bit thin, but it likely ended with the Battle of Paskardae, Persis' capital. Cyrus defeated his grandfather and seized the capital, which he elevated to the first Achaemenid capital. Then, allying himself with Scythians and Hyrcanians, Cyrus went on to capture the Median capital, Ecbatana, 1 year later. Despite reluctance among the nobility to accept Cyrus's reign, the king managed to crush turmoil and dissent. If he couldn't beat his enemies in battle, he would seduce them with high-ranking positions at his court and in his army. As a result, most of Astyages' former subjects accepted their new ruler. Cyrus took on the name of Cyrus II, but to us, he is known as Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid Empire. He would be one of the titans of Persian history. During his reign, he elevated Zoroastrianism to the official religion. Its dominance remained until the spread of Islam in the 7th century. His domains expanded rapidly. This did not go unnoticed among his neighbors. This expansion of territory and power worried rulers around Cyrus's borders. One of the most prominent rulers was King of Croesus of Lydia. Under Astyages, the relations with Croesus had been warm. A new ruler, with a seemingly insatiable hunger for territorial expansion, unnerved the king. Lydia was known for its powerful cavalry. Their reputation traveled far and wide, and even Cyrus conceded the cavalry was a direct threat to his army. In addition, the kingdom's resources and riches, Croesus's name was synonymous with wealth, rendered the kingdom a formidable enemy. The Lydian kingdom enjoyed good diplomatic relations with states to its west. With Cyrus expanding his territory seemingly unchecked, Croesus decided to cultivate these connections. He sent envoys to Egypt, Babylon, and Sparta. These shared Croesus's worries and agreed to forge an alliance against the emerging power. In 547 BC, a Lydian army augmented by Babylonians, Spartans, and Egyptians crossed the Halys River into Medes. Cyrus learned of an army marching against him, and he gathered an army himself to meet his enemies in battle. He moved along the frontier between his kingdom and Babylonia, levying soldiers from modern-day Armenia and Iraq. In winter, both sides met near the city of Pteria. Not many sources survive, besides the battle being inconclusive. Both sides retreated. One of the surviving anecdotes remarked the Lydian horses were scared by the Persian camels used to supply the army. Because Croesus's army had ravaged the Cappadocian lands and many of its supplies, a winter stay would be risky. The king decided to take up winter quarters in his capital, Sardis. Because of the shortages, he dismissed his Greek mercenaries, requesting additional troops from his allies. Meanwhile, in Cyrus's camp, his advisors told him it would be best to take up winter quarters. He could launch another campaign by spring, but the king learned of the departure of the Greek mercenaries, the shortage of supplies, and the fact Lydia's allies would not be able to send reinforcements until the snow thawed. So he rejected the council and organized an attack. He embarked on the march across the Anatolian peninsula. Scouts reportedly warned Croesus of an advancing army, but the Lydian king did not believe the reports. It wasn't until Cyrus's army appeared in front of the gates of Sardis that Croesus realized an attack was imminent. Sources conflict, but Cyrus's army numbered between 20 to 50,000 soldiers. Croesus commanded significantly more, although no exact figure is given. This must have surprised Cyrus, considering that he launched an attack because of his perceived weakness of Croesus. Cyrus's army had a long, brutal march behind them. Croesus figured the fatigue combined with his numerical advantage would make for a likely victory. Both armies met on the plain of Thymbra, outside Sardis. Cyrus deployed the core of his infantry in a square formation. His chariots and cavalry remained on either flank, in the rear of his infantry. Croesus deployed his army in the traditional long ranks, extending them significantly. Because of the extended position, the Lydian cavalry was ideally situated to launch a flanking maneuver. Croesus opened the battle exactly that way, by ordering his cavalry on both flanks to charge against the infantry square, attempting to envelop the infantry. The horses charged forward, gaining momentum, before crashing into the infantry lines. The archers behind the infantry launched volleys of arrows, but the spears of the cavalrymen caused severe damage to the Persians. Savage fighting broke out between the cavalry and the infantry. But the Persian king had a trick up his sleeve. He learned the Lydian cavalry was afraid of camels he ordinarily used for supplying the army. But now several of his cavalrymen mounted camels and launched a charge against the cavalry. The camels had not even clashed with the Lydian lines when the scent of the camels caused a terror among the cavalry. The horses bolted in a panic. Some of the Lydian cavalry dismounted, but their scattered positions and heavy lances did not allow them to resist the charge adequately. Brutal fighting broke out as the Persian cavalry mopped up the scattered Lydian horsemen. The Persian archers, meanwhile, directed their volleys against the Lydian infantry center. The concentration of arrows caused chinks in the lines, which already displayed large gaps thanks to the Lydian cavalry charge. With the Lydian horsemen neutralized, Cyrus launched the second phase of his strategy. He ordered the infantry and the cavalry to launch a concentrated attack against the Lydian infantry. These did not enjoy any protection on their flanks anymore. If anything, they had already lost many soldiers thanks to the constant barrage of arrows by their cavalry's rout. The charge was ferocious. Sounds of battle and screams of the Lydian soldiers filled the air. Savage fighting lasted for a while, but it became clear the Lydian infantry would be bested. Many soldiers retreated into Sardis, hastening into the city. The victory at Thymbra was significant for Cyrus. As the Lydians retreated behind the capital's wall, Cyrus launched a siege. After 2 weeks, his soldiers found a weak spot in Sardis' defenses. Cyrus dispatched a small veteran unit of soldiers to ensure the incremental capture of the city's defenses. Khuses reportedly resided close by the weak points of the wall, and the Persians captured the king. With no ruler to lead the resistance, Sardis surrendered the next day, and the kingdom of Lydia was admitted to Cyrus's domains. He added Lydia's riches and resources to his coffers. The kingdom's geography ensured the Babylonians could no longer rely on support from their allies through Lydia. With his newfound strategic position, Cyrus was far from done with his conquests. Thank you for watching this video. If there's a topic, battle, person, or event you would like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also really like to thank all my patrons and my channel members for their generous support. If you enjoy House of History and you want to support my work, consider joining me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you will already gain early access to all my videos without any in-video advertisements. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.